So I've already started this video maybe 5-6 times trying to figure out how to start it and even what to talk about because of what we're going through in our country right now. So I don't really have a plan on what I'm speaking about right this minute, but I do know a brother from our group reached out to me and mentioned that lots of people are frustrated, morale's down. And I understand that completely. Last night, talking to my wife, I said the very thing. I said, today, nothing's going to happen. Manipulators, bullies, people who are power hungry, they tend to always win, or at least for the most part. They get their way. People give in to them. They pout, they cry, they scream, and get what they want most of the time. And except for significant events throughout history, you have people who are patriotic, people who are seeking to have fairness occur, people who are seeking for justice to occur. They end up stepping in and it resets things. Do I know how that's going to happen here? I don't. But what I do know is I was standing in this very spot when I made my very first video, standing out in my yard thinking, I'm afraid for where our country's going. I'm afraid for where, my children are going to wind up later, what they're going to be faced with. And all I did was put that out there. And at the time, that physical threat, lots of people responded to it. And I'm not suggesting that training for physical confrontation is easy, but I think it's much harder to try to tackle the problem that our country's in by communication. It's because the left has won in so many ways, and there's just no way to avoid that. There's no way to ignore it. So I'm not going to act like it's not happening. They completely run the school system. Right now, they completely run the government. And conservatives are being silenced about as far as you can be silenced. So we're losing our ability to communicate across social media platforms. And we've years ago lost the ability to speak in school without being considered or labeled, whether it be a racist, whether it be a supremacist, whether it be someone simply trying to have power. It's been going downhill for a long time. So honestly, I'm not surprised by what's happened. It's sickening because I'm tired of looking at it. But I said in my last video, there's things we can engage in, and I'll use my counseling skills at this point and at least help with a place we can start. Now, if you guys can remember 4 letters, WDEP, that's within something called reality therapy, something that I used to practice. And that W is, what is it that I want? I think I've discussed this many times and had discussions with many people about it. What is it that we want for our country? And we've talked about it plenty of times. And it's balance and justice, something that's not happening right now. So we know what that want is. The D is what are we doing to achieve what it is we want? And right now, we've began as a group creating civil defense and civic engagement, which is 2 primary things you work from when you're talking about social justice or safety in your environment. So that's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing. And the E is evaluate what you're doing to see if it's working or not. So if I was to evaluate what we're doing, we as a group have big time got involved with this civil defense part, trying to make sure we can protect each other. And that slowly but surely has organized and developed. But civic engagement, we have not put nowhere near the effort into that we have preparing for physical things. I think it's easier to prepare for physical things. You kind of know what to do. You know exactly what you should, gain some skills in. When you're talking about trying to change the entire culture, or at least challenge the entire culture, there's so many different angles you could try to take, and most of us don't really know where to start. We reach out to people that's in our government, ask for assistance of hey, people that's like-minded anyway. What do I do? Most people are going to say vote. Make sure you put people in there who are going to change things. For me, that just don't seem quick enough, I mean, and then in this past election, I'm not going to say whatever it is I think about that, but just voting is not the thing. So if I evaluate, are we making an impact in our culture? I'll say absolutely not. Not right now. And then the P of WDEP is to make a plan. If what we're doing is not working, then we have to make a plan to try to get what it is that we want, where we started at the beginning, what we want: balance, we want justice for all people. That is, it's always been about all people, trying to find the word I've used many times: consistency. Get rid of the hypocrisy, and that's all over the place right now. I mean, just watch and listen to how we're being labeled. Logical fallacies are rampant right now. The left is making absolutely no sense about the claims they're making. So I'm going into something else there. You can see I'm frustrated just like everybody else. But plan-wise, I mentioned it already. Voices have to be heard at levels where it's going to make an impact. The best place to start is within the school system. The left has trained, like my wife told me the other day, she said, they've waited enough years to where the people who were in this country, say during World War II, people who understood what they were fighting for as a country and as a culture, they waited till they trained enough younger people. And these generations now don't have a concept of what it is to have a country that's balanced. They have completely been in gear of trying to get rid of conservatives, trying to get rid of, and I'll say this because it's simply true, I heard it in school and I'm going to just say it because that's what I heard nonstop. Also trying to get rid of what they call white culture. And it pisses me off that you'd even call a culture by a color. I mean, how hypocritical is that, to say don't make generalizations about people and then do something like that based on call it a color, a culture, a color. And I can't get into that. You see where I'm trying to go already? I have talked about it, and I said this early on about the physical part. I'm sick of trying to convince people that what they're doing is unjust, it's unfair, it's illogical. So when I say voices heard, again, I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince somebody who generations and generations now have, well, at least a generation, all they are concerned with is gaining power and silencing a certain group. That's their bond. That's how that's what they hold together. So if we think about what's just, and do we have a virtuous goal? Do we have a virtuous reason for what we're doing? I'm not trying to gain power over any person or group. So as a group, if what we're seeking is actual justice, and we're seeking it to make sense and to give liberty to all people, then we have a virtuous reason for what we're joining together to fight for. So I'm saying challenge it. I'm saying challenge it at every level that you have an opportunity to challenge it at. Don't just sit back and be quiet about it. Yes, it could continually go the way it's going now. There may be enough people in this generation that couldn't care less about how this country got here and the importance of having free speech, the importance of having liberty for all people. They don't get it. They've always had it. So they think a conservative voice is somehow trying to oppress people, because that's the narrative that it keeps getting talked about. So I'm going to say, clarify what it is you are, what it is you're seeking, and then what you're not going to put up with in front of you. I'm going to vocalize it around people when the opportunity presents itself, but I'll say all we can do, I mean, civic engagement wise, besides voting, is to stop being ashamed to speak and put out there what it is that's a problem, and let your kids know about it. Your kids probably are not going to want to hear it, because they're part of the newer generation, many of them, and don't understand it. Jeff, our guy in Tennessee, now he's creating a site that helps discuss the history of how this country started, and that's what Trump actually put out recently too, the 1776. A lot of pages there, but worth the read, because it puts in perspective why we're here as a country, how we developed, and the things about this country that make it really unique, that's being smushed right now. So educating ourselves. Jeff wanted to educate early on, and I focused in on safety, because that was our ultimate need at the time. And what Jeff mentioned, though, is we all have to have a handle on what it is we're fighting for, what it is that we're trying to preserve here. I mean, we know right offhand that the hypocrisy that the left's showing, ridiculous. The freedom of speech, they're trying to censor us completely. That's obviously ridiculous. But we have to have a grasp on the core of what it is that this country means. And Jeff's site should be up soon. A good place to have discussion, a good place to learn. And I'm sure he'll continue to teach, because that's what he's good at. That's what he enjoys. He has a lot of knowledge. We have to get a grasp on that, talk about it amongst ourselves, revive what it is that we value by our conversations with each other and around our kids, around our neighbors' kids. Because if we don't start spilling out what this country is, what it's founded on, what its principles are, even the ugly parts, but how we've developed, things will never change. That group that's in control right now will continue to spill that ugly that they have all over everybody. And they're going to continue to do that. So it's either that you sit back and watch it, or you try to learn and get more versed in what it is that you value, and what it is this country, most people who came here, what they were leaving and what they came here to try to experience. Those things we need to get at heart and share that with other people, because at its core, it's a beautiful thing that people came here to try to create. And over the years that this country's been here, what people have given their life to preserve, it was valued. But we are so spoiled as a country because we've been sitting in it. Like I said in my last video, we've been riding on the coattails of people who done something to either protect or preserve to have this country. And it's our turn to work at that. So remember the WDEP. What do I want? What am I doing to get it? Let me evaluate what I'm doing to see if it's effective. And if it's not, let me make a plan to do something that's going to be effective. That's a place we can start, guys. We don't have to sit down. And I said it in my last video, if you're banking on one person like a president to fix all this, it's not going to happen. So people who are saying don't lose hope, well, if your hope was completely in one person anyway, your hope was in the wrong place. Hope needs to be in our community. Hope needs to be in our culture. There's so many of us that are good people, that are decent people, that just want balance and fairness. We want to live let other people live, and stop being censored and told what to do, what we can and can't do for regular things, decent things that's not affecting anybody in a negative way. Live that life that this country represents and share that life and the values of it with people who are confused about what they think conservatives are about. I don't know where to go from there except start in that one spot. Take a step. If we don't do anything but take a step using the reality WDEP, start in one spot, take a step. We can do that together. We already have a website. We do have social media, at least for now. You can share what it is you're doing. Share those ideas. And I think it's very important that we continue as a group to support people that we value out in our communities. Donations can go toward that kind of thing. Again, I think disabled veterans should be taken care of, whether they be fed something. Find one in your community. Get that person a meal sent to them once a month, something they can look forward to that somebody else gives them. People in your community, but we need to find our family again as a community, because we've all went our own ways. We've all cashed in on what so many people fought and labored to have, and we've kind of just went out on our own way. I think maybe bonding together again over what it is that maybe even you, me, all the rest of us have not truly considered what it is that we're losing right now. So instead of thinking about it being lost, let's take those steps, make plans to bring it back in. We have the power to do that, and I'll say this in ending. We live here too. Talk to you soon.